All right, so, back at it this week. Yesterday got in there and, like anything, there's always things on tape that you look at, that you do well, that you got to continue to build off of. And certainly there are things on there that you got to get corrected. The kind of common misconceptions when you play a team like Florida State is that, they beat you. It is what it is. There's nothing you can get from it. It's not. That couldn't be further from the truth. You got to focus on the things that we did that didn't allow us to have success. Sometimes, man for man, they're going to win. They've got really good players. They've got guys that are, extremely talented. And that's not what you focus on. You focus on the things, whether it's playing with the proper leverage or a communication issue, making sure you got the right identification or making sure your progression for a quarterback is correct. Those are things that we can control that'll help us in the long run. So, we inventory those things and, we got to continue to get better to go out there and go get a win this week. Obviously playing for bowl eligibility. And the thing for our team this week is it's the playoffs. You got to win to have a chance to get in. If you don't, then you're sitting around watching everybody else play, and that's certainly not what we want to do. So for us, it's a playoff mentality approach. We're playing a Texas State team that the second half of the year has played really good football. They've either won or been in every game or have been winning in every game in the fourth quarter, since about the midway point, since after James Madison, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's going to be one of those deals, man. It's going to be a Sun Belt West game. You got to prepare well. You got to go out there and you got to go play well, have a chance to win. Got to play team football. And, we're going to work hard this week to make sure we go out there, go do that, and get our kids another game.
Coach, they've not won many, but they played 20-14, 17-14, 16-13. So what are they doing better on defense maybe? Because in the past they've played a lot more high scoring games.
That's right. They've kind of flipped their MO a little bit on defense. Obviously, they've got some good players to play the way they're playing. In the past they've kind of been like a read and react defense a little bit. They kind of line up, stay where they're at. This year they're way more aggressive. They play multiple fronts, multiple coverages, and they have about every pressure package that you can have. And they do a good job with them. They're not rolling the dice. I mean, their blitz pass are good. They fit it well. They know where the problems are, and they get to the soft spots with coverage and things like that. So they've done a good job mixing it up. I think their defensive line sets the tone for their team. They're not a huge defensive line, but they are really quick, athletic, and they play extremely hard. They fly to the football. They don't stay blocked for long. And really they're not giving up a whole bunch of rushing yards per game. In football, if you can stop the run, you've always got a chance, and they've done that really well. So, I think their defense has improved tremendously. And when you watch them on tape, you can see it, and I think it has a shift in the way they're playing. They're attacking, and they're getting after people a little bit more than maybe in the past where they tried to read and react and play some things. And I think it's obviously paid off for them defensively.
You guys talk about, I think these two programs have played each other 9 times in the past, and I know that's in the past, but do y'all talk about keeping that 9-game win streak going against this program?
No, us talking about win streaks hadn't worked too good this year, so we're just talking about this week, this game. For us, to be honest with you, it's kind of the thing you talk to your team about. The things that have happened in the past really have no bearing on the future. And for us, those guys don't care about what's happened in the past, and our kids don't either. It's two new teams, 2 totally different teams, and every chance you get out there, it's us against them. It's nothing more than that. For us, it's a big game because it's a chance for us to get to bowl eligible. For them, truthfully, it's a big game because I think for them it would be a chance for them to finish the year on a really high note. Like I said, the second half of the year they've played really well. So for them, it's an opportunity to finish on a high note and have some momentum going in the offseason. And for us, certainly, like we said, one of our goals is always to get to a bowl game, and it's still right there in front of us. So that's really what the focus is this week more than any of that.
Coach, looking at the mindset of your team and the makeup of your players, do you think this, win or go home type of setup helps them?
Yeah, I do. I think when our backs are against the wall, that's usually when we're at our best. And this year, we've had opportunities in some games and things like that, and I think we've developed a little bit of a sense of urgency in our team and the way that we do things. And our guys understand. I mean, they know what it is, but that's when I feel like we do our best work, is whenever it's kind of back against the wall and you got to go. And the reality of it is that to be a good team, you have to have that type of mentality and mindset. And every game you get into, there's going to be those back against the wall situations. I mean, not everyone maybe, but most of them. And you got to perform in those situations. So we've done a better job of playing well in critical situations throughout the year. And this game is one of those deals. So, everything that you work for all year kind of culminates at the end of the year, and you want to see it on display when you have a chance in a game like this to go out there and go win to extend your season.
After you had a chance to look at it on tape, can you assess Chandler's performance and how he progressed during the game?
Yeah, I thought Chandler in the second half played really well. Rightfully so in the first half. He was excited. I'm sure he's probably a little nervous. He might not admit it, but it was his first start in a while. His opportunity to go out there and go run the team and go do it. And the first half, I thought the whole game he made good decisions in the RPO game. They did a lot of things where they added safeties to the box and safety pressures, and he did a really good job of getting the ball out in the loaded boxes. In the first half, I thought he made some throws that were really the first probably quarter and a half, I guess I should say. He made some throws that he kind of overshot it, overthrew it, probably nerves, excitement, all that stuff, kind of fired up to play. And then he started dropping them in there pretty good, and our receivers made some plays. We had a couple opportunities to make a couple more, which we knew they're going to win some. We got to win some. But I was pleased with the way he played, especially as the game progressed and went on. And the reality is we're going to need the guy to go play well for us and continue to make good decisions and put the ball where it needs to go. Because it's hard to win games. I mean, no one's that much better than someone else where you can just hide your quarterback anymore. I mean, that world, it just doesn't exist anymore. The I formation, get under center, hand it off, and just play, hold them to 10 points. I mean, that world doesn't exist. So, we're going to play to win the game with him, and he's got to continue to play well. And hopefully, as the game went on, he continued to get better. That carries some confidence over for him into this next one.
How big of a concern is it, though? There's still something between quarterbacks and rhythm with the receivers, and it seemed like Ben, prior to his injury, had developed that over, and then now you're one game for all the marbles for you, and Ben hasn't been part of that process. I mean, Chandler hadn't really been part of that process.
Well, there's a difference in game and practice, but we roll receivers with both groups throughout practice continuously. So, as you guys well know, we've got 6, 8 receivers, 9 receivers that we play pretty regularly, and those guys have always taken reps the entire season. Some with with Ben, with Chandler, kind of whoever was in that backup role. So he's gotten a lot of throws with those guys throughout the year. They've continued to throw together. Like I said, it's a practice setting, not a game setting. But they have been taking reps together, throughout the course of the year. It's not like, hey, the ones are over here separate from everybody else. That's not really the way we play. So, I don't really have a whole lot of concern about that. This week we got a normal week of preparation, so, he'll get all the reps with the ones again, and he'll get a bunch of throws with them. But at the same time, like I said, Zion going with the twos, he'll get throws with some of the ones too. I mean, that's just kind of the way we practice, the way we format it. So I don't see a huge concern in that. The biggest thing is just having him confident in himself and going out there and being ready to go play his game.
Anything else, Coach?
You mentioned practices, and I know you talked about it on the conference call. Other than the prestige of playing a bowl game, can you talk about the benefits of getting those extra 2 or 3 weeks of practice, especially since you're playing so many young guys?
Well, that's something that I think really goes undervalued when you talk about bowl preparation. You can get up to 15 practices, to get ready for a bowl game. Now, typically we don't get that many because our bowls are a little earlier. 15 practices, that's an entire spring session. That's invaluable for your team. And for us, it allows you to go back to a little bit, especially before you really know who the opponent is, or even, the weeks leading up before you really game planned it, you get to go back to a fall camp, spring practice type setting where it's ones against ones, twos on twos, threes on threes, and you get all three of those groups to work together. They get coached the way you want to coach them. And so you get to develop a lot of those guys that, I've talked about some of these young guys in here that we're excited about moving forward, and there's a bunch of them. So it's huge to get that. And I think that's something that kind of goes, really kind of undervalued a little bit. Coach Cook at Notre Dame told me this whenever I was a high school coach, every year it seems like those guys are playing in the Superdome for a state championship. And he talked about the advantage of that. You get 5 more weeks of practice with your team and preparation, and, you get those young guys continue to get better as time goes on. I mean, that's 50% more of a season. Well, you talk about 15 practices, for us, that's a whole spring session. That's a whole extra phase of your off season that you get that if you don't make it, you lose out on. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely huge, especially with the team that we have, with the young guys that need to continue to get those reps to continue to get better.
Coach, did your post-game impression about the injury situation, did it turn out to be pretty accurate?
Yeah, we came out of it okay. AJ Riley wasn't able to finish, so he's kind of under evaluation a little bit. Caleb Anderson's another one who, I didn't realize he didn't finish it because he rotates. I wasn't sure. I thought he was just out of the rotation. But he's probably questionable this week as well. On the offensive line, we came through it pretty good. We're trying to get Rubio back. He was a game time decision, couldn't end up going. So hopefully this week he'll be ready to play. But yeah, for the most part, we came out of it pretty good, which is always a plus, especially, when the game doesn't go the way you want it to. Not add injury to insult there. So hopefully that'll hold true as the week goes on, and those guys will be ready to suit it up, for us in this last game.
We've talked about their defense. As far as their offense, what's different from what the last few years, and how does that match up with?
Well, so last year when we played them, they played the backup quarterback played. Well, I say backup. They kind of played too, but the Vitt kid played against us last year, and he was more of a runner. And whenever we played them, and I'll be honest, last year I didn't watch their offense nearly as much as obviously I do now. And they ran the ball with him a lot more, and they kind of played that game. The guy they got now is a transfer from Arkansas State who's a true passer, and he does a good job in the pocket. He gets the ball out really quick. He makes good decisions with it. The running back they have, ironically enough, also transferred from over there. He's a good back. Last year when we played Arkansas State, he had one of the best games out of any of the backs that had against us. So they got 3 out of 5 returners on the O-line, starters returning on the O-line. That always means something. And they've continued to get better. You can see that. They do run the ball effectively, and they get in some sets. They'll spread you out and run it. But this year they are playing quite a bit of 12 personnel as well, and getting in some runs. They run a lot of gap scheme plays, which I think allows their lines big, allows them just to kind of track it down and get the pullers going and get you out of a gap. And the back does a good job. He's patient and presses it. The big thing I think is going to be how many of their receivers are back for this game. Last week they had quite a few guys that were out of the game. I know one's out for the year, but I think he's number 2 is out for the year. But they had a couple of other guys that were out that are really good players. So if they get those guys back, certainly that makes them a better team. Being able to spread the field, and the quarterback does a good job getting the ball where it needs to go. I mean, they RPO you in every different way possible. They're going to RPO gap schemes, zone schemes, whatever. And the quarterback makes good decisions. I mean, that guy's played a lot of football, and he does a good job. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly, and their receivers do a good job. I mean, they get in the right spots. They know where the soft spots on the defense are. And I think Coach Spav, I have a lot of respect for him. He's been calling football plays for a while now, and he does a really good job of it.
Physically and mentally, just kind of wanted to check on Ben. Just how's he doing?
Ben's been great. I kind of shared this with some of you. I don't remember if it was in here or not, but the day after he tore his ACL, he was up here the next morning and came see me in my office, and and told me, he's like, Coach, I still want to be a part of this season. I want to be a leader on this team. I feel like, I need to be a part of it. And, which obviously he is. I mean, you can see our team, the way they respond to him, he is. And so I said, well, yeah, hey, man, I was like, take as much time as you need. When you come back, you're certainly he was the first one in meetings that afternoon, sitting in there. He had his notebook out, his pen on his notebook, and he was taking notes in the meeting just like he's going to play. And, if you want to know how much he means to us, typically you don't get to travel injured guys with you because you only get to bring so many. We had multiple players on the team that asked me if Ben could travel with us to Florida State. That's how much he means to the team. And certainly, I mean, we were already doing that. But yeah, he's been, the guy's a natural leader, and our team responds to him. And, certainly we miss him. Not just the field, stuff he does on the field, but you just miss his presence a little bit. And he was good for us in the game, on the sideline with Chandler. He was great. He's every time he's got the call sheet, he's going back on the sideline. He's sitting down with Chandler. Coach Burge kind of sits with the running backs and the quarterbacks as we go through the series and talk about what we're seeing. And he was really good for Chandler. So, you can't say enough, how much I think about that guy. He had surgery this morning. I didn't get didn't hear anything if he came out, when he came out of it, if he's out yet or not. But, obviously he was upset, when it happened. I mean, that's a hard thing to mentally process that this really happened. The next day he's like, well, it's just kind of back to square one. I'm gonna get back to work and get ready to go. And he's special, man. He really is. And he's been a little bit of a heartbeat for our team this year on offense. And I'm proud of him because I know how much he's been through, and to stick it out, just keep working, just not worry about everything else that's going on. Just keep doing your job for the team. He's done that, and he's just been phenomenal for us. So, I'm excited for him to be able to get back to work whenever he can, because I know I know how much his team means to him.